Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar CF Analytics Beneath the Surface of Data. My name is Michał Dzionk, and I'm the Research Director at the Institute for Citizen-Centered Service, or ICCS. Before we start, a couple of technical points. We are recording this session, and we'll make the recording available in just a few days, so please keep an eye out for it. And also, the session will consist of a presentation and a demo that will be followed by a Q&A segment. Toward the end of the webinar, you'll be able to ask your questions and comments and submit your comments by clicking on the Q&A icon on your screen. So in this webinar, we will focus on CF Analytics, and the presentation will be led by Guy Gordon, who will be familiar to many of you from his role with the public sector and also the ICCS, but who is currently supporting the work of Pigeonline, with which organization we've partnered to launch and develop the CF Analytics platform. Before I let Guy speak, let me just spend a few minutes to give you an overall background to the service and also a very quick introduction to the ICCS, as I recognize that some of you may be less familiar with the Institute. So the ICCS is a platform for public sector organizations in Canada and also beyond that was created to facilitate collaboration between different governments and various other stakeholders who aim at increasing the quality of services offered to public sector clients. To this end, we coordinate the activities of two national councils, the Public Sector Service Delivery Council and the Public Sector CIOs Council. We create and deliver certification and learning programs. And last but not least, one of the key elements is our research. So let's go to the next slide. And this includes two national studies, which ask Canadians about their satisfaction with government services and which we conduct once every couple of years. Incidentally, we are just wrapping up the latest Citizens First study called Citizens First 2023, and the national report for that study will be available very soon for purchase on our website. So again, I invite you to keep an eye out for this. Essentially, we use these studies to ask Canadians about their most recent service experience, how satisfied they were with it, but also to explore the broader context, including what they think about government services overall and how they would like those services to be improved. And we explore various other issues of importance, such as for instance, in the latest iteration, we took a more detailed look. We conducted an analysis relating to the current and potential future use of digital services, as well as an examination of how Canadians rated government's performance during the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go to the next slide. Now, those studies look at government's performance at a higher or jurisdictional level. As such, they provide a great context and insight for what currently matters to Canadians. However, each government department or program will also be facing issues specific to their service environment. And if you were to look at the organizational or program level, there are other solutions or tools that allow you to zero in further on what matters to your clients, and that can be used to identify real service improvement opportunities. And this is where the Common Measurements Tool, or the CMT, and CF Analytics come into play. And the CMT at its core is a bank of questions, but it really is a key element of a whole service improvement framework. Let's go to the next slide. That allows service providers to get input from their clients that then translates into meaningful insights and to use it to make informed tactical and strategic decisions relating to service provision. And while the CMT serves to help ask the right questions, CF Analytics is there to provide answers, essentially. The platform not only allows organizations to get basic statistical information based on CMT research, but it also compares the results to those of other organizations, identifies service gaps and priorities for service improvement. And it can also be used to go beyond just CMT items and, for instance, analyze effectively open-ended data, be it input based on open-ended survey items or unstructured data from other sources. And the possibilities here are really endless. And Guy will give you a more detailed step-by-step walkthrough of those various analytical options in just a moment. Now, this platform was first based around our benchmarking service that was first started around 2 decades ago in early 2000s, but it's really much more now. What we offer now is significantly more sophisticated than what we were providing 5 or 10 years ago. And we expect the platform to continue to grow to reflect the changing service and research environments and the evolving needs of its users. And the tools that we offer are gaining more and more traction with public sector organizations. We definitely see that. There is definitely growing interest because of the increase in sophistication of such tools and the increased levels of insight that they offer. So let's go to the next slide. And I will end this intro by giving you a sneak peek into the results of our latest CF study that I mentioned at the beginning. And this is to illustrate that there are definitely good reasons to look for additional insight that CF Analytics offers. These results tell us that the perception of government services in Canada has experienced a very substantial decline over the past 3 years. And this is happening across the board, across all levels of government. And to give you an example, the current slide shows you the overall ratings that each level of government received over the past 25 years. And you can see that the scores have decreased by at least 10 points recently, and in some cases, significantly more. We're essentially back at the levels from the late 90s when we first started this research. And similar declines have also been observed for other key metrics, such as the Client Satisfaction Index score, confidence in public sector score, as well as scores for most individual services. And you will find the complete results in our national report, again, that will be available soon. So the message is clear. Many Canadians are not happy with the level of service that they're receiving from governments. And as the CF research shows, the time to act is really now. And the ICCS is here to help and equip you with tools such as CF Analytics that enable its users to respond effectively to this challenge and to provide assistance in meeting and maybe even exceeding expectations of your clients. And with this, let me hand it over to Guy.
Thank you very much, Michal. This is the first time I've had a chance to see this data, and it's very, very exciting. So thank you very much to everyone who's attending in person and everybody who will receive a copy of the recording or will see it at some point posted somewhere on the internet in the future. But it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to discuss and show a little bit about what's going on with Citizens First Analytics and why, as Michal has said, it's extremely timely and extremely relevant to be able to put into the hands of organizations, into the hands of analysts, into the hands of managers, a tool that they can use easily and quickly and help them generate what they're looking for. So let's just talk a little bit about the world of customer experience analytics and why we are seeing interest in this service, this suite of services from the ICCS attract interest and popularity, and give you a little bit of context about what we built and the rationale for why we built it in a particular way. What we've heard from organizations is they have at their disposal, or they know that there are a wide variety of tools and systems that are out there that allow them to manipulate data and information. However, many of those come with difficulties in that they require technical support, they require staff with computer engineering skills, highly advanced data analytics skills, and so forth. Also, they find that the time to do this and the complexity of doing these projects is beyond their capability. And I don't mean technical capability so much as their sort of availability of having time and energy to be able to devote to these projects. So what they tell us is they're looking for a suite of tools that is at its core simple to use. Something by which people can be trained in very short period of time, and can allow their staff and themselves to be able to generate results quickly and in a matter of minutes, not weeks or months or hours. Very important and increasingly important is the ability to point to insights that are of their nature actionable. That is, they point to areas by which organizations can pinpoint problems and can identify solutions to service problems. Not only does the data have to point them in that direction, but they have to be able to trust and these days be able to explain how they got the results. That's increasingly in an era of AI, a very important public sector requirement, explainability. But do they trust the results? And what are the results based on? And can they go to their senior executives and have confidence that the information they are providing is based on reliable and rigorous research? Lastly, they always appreciate the ability for simplified reporting, the ability to send information to the right people down the line in a matter of seconds and in a matter of clicks. So that's what we understand organizations to be looking for. So Citizens First Analytics, which is powered by Research AI, is at its, as Michal has discussed, a suite of automated measurement and reporting services. It relies at its core on proven survey instruments, that is the CMT and the Citizens First survey questions. It facilitates automated quantitative analysis and reporting. It outlines very quickly how an organization is performing with regard to the questions asked. It identifies and predicts what are the key drivers of the key variables you're looking at. And in our case, it's most often citizen satisfaction. And it enables real-time instant benchmarking. How is my organization performing against similar organizations? Very much trying to answer the question, what is good? In addition, Citizens First Analytics brings for the first time the world of AI to Citizens First. In particular, AI to artificial intelligence that's used to facilitate the analysis of qualitative data. Most often captured in open-ended questions, but can be captured in other formats such as comment cards, or could be available on social media review sites of government services. That's what Citizens First does, and the fact that it's all been integrated into a suite of services is really exciting, and that's what we're here to demo today. So what I really want to do in the next sort of 15 minutes is show you a demo of the real live service, and I want to show how simple it is to upload your data, to perform automated analysis, and we'll talk about some use cases, and I'll provide some examples, and I'll also illustrate some of the simplified reporting. So let's shift. Here, I'm going to shift into my demo mode. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to switch to this, which you can now see. What we have here in front of you is Citizens First Analytics, and this is what an analyst would see, or what a user would see. And this happens to be my screen, but you can see here that Citizens First Analytics actually is broken into two elements, data sets and projects. So let's start with data sets. Data sets, and here's a list of the data sets that I have. Data sets are the source of the information. This is the results of your data collection. And most often, these are available in, come to us in a variety of formats, but the most common is an Excel spreadsheet. So let's use that. And what we have here is a data wizard. So really what we're going to do is it walks you through very quickly. You're going to choose a survey, and this happens to be a public sector survey that's been anonymized, but it's real data and it's used for our demo purposes. So I click that, and what do we have here? It basically says my upload is moving forward, and I have the opportunity to do here. It gives me a tip. It says, do you want to add a benchmark analysis? I do want to add a benchmark analysis, and in this particular instance, I want to tie it to the ICCS benchmarking demo. But you will note that we have in here the ability to create other benchmarks, and that is something that organizations are doing. In fact, some of the clients of Citizens First Analytics have been very keen to build their own benchmarks as they add other questions to their survey, and or they use different survey instruments, and they are very keen to, for example, create an internal benchmark where they measure the performance of various lines of business, various offices against various departments against each other. So I'm just going to hit continue, and I'm going to agree to the conditions. And oh, okay. Okay. We have to go back here. So okay, so what I did wrong here is I went down one path instead of another. So let's go do it this way. This data cleaning exercise is really good because what it uses is it helps to, we use some tools here to help you find your suggested data types. And in this particular instance, the survey question has an identifying, an ID number, and it has some two questions which in fact are not scale questions, but they're actually categorical questions. And I needed to change that, right? Okay. And then the last question is there's an open-ended question, and I need to confirm that there's an open-ended there. So that has, what's happening here is you've seen that with those few those few switches and this clicks, I've cleaned my data. Now I can add my ICCS benchmarking data. All right. All right, so now I've connected this to the benchmarking stuff. Now what's happened here is that the system's already said, do you want to get suggested matches? So this allows me to select which questions I want to benchmark. And what I'm going to do here is actually select 3 questions. I'm going to request that there's 3 questions by which I want to benchmark. So that's what I've done here. And now I can connect this data set to a project. So I'm going to call this CFA demo 2. And the data set is there, and I just hit, and all of a sudden, look what happens. The system has automatically determined that the data set that you provided and have uploaded, the questions you've included in your survey, your customer service survey, actually enable 5 types of analysis to be performed. Now, these 5 types of analysis are performance, drivers, benchmarking, outliers, which I'm going to explain in a minute because it's a very, very powerful tool, and text, which I talked about. So now we've got 5 groups of analysis that are available at our fingertips. And you can see that if I click on these, I'm going to be provided with 2 options. And what these 2 options, and they're consistently shown to users, is you have auto suggest, which is now using AI to do automatic suggestion. And you've got your sort of more flexible manual ability to do analysis. But let's go here with the auto suggestion. So the performance analysis in this case allows us to choose how I might want to see the data. So how do I want to sort the data? So I can choose the original, like go from highest to highest to lowest. Now, what we know is that some organizations like the top box mode, so that's available. They can adjust to see which they want to see quartiles or top 10 deciles and so forth. So in some organizations, they like that. So what does this do? If I hit open, it's automatically going to show me what the results of the scores were. Now, this happens to be based on the order of questions 1 to 11, and it gives me a breakdown of the scores. Now, I can either see it in graphic or I can see it in textual, and it shows the scores by that way. So that's the choice we have with respect to that particular type. Now, if I wanted to see this from lowest to highest, I get to see that view as well. So in this case, I've chosen lowest to highest, or I could go back. Now, in order to report, I simply need to name this slide, in which case I'll just go performance. And that is going to save that view right away. I could show you more on how we could break down, but the ability to take your basic scores and filter them and sort them and report on them is made available through this box. But what I want to do is proceed into the more interesting types of analysis whereby insights are really drawn quickly and automatically. So drivers, as many of you know or may know, is a way of describing a form of analysis called regression analysis. It's also being very commonly been referred to these days as prediction. So if you understand what's driving a variable, you are then able to sort of predict what will happen if you impact those variables, right? So drivers are very powerful because they tell you through statistical analysis what is impacting, in this case, and most commonly, what is impacting citizen satisfaction. So that's what we want to do. And if we hit this auto suggestion, instantly you can see that this is giving me what are the top drivers and what model have I used. Now, for those of you who are into data science and you want to be able to explain the different types of regression models, we actually explain those what they are, but you can choose different types of models if you would prefer to do that. But the system basically automatically determines what is the most effective model. So let's open this up and see what we have here. So it says, to compute this driver, we use random forest, and it gives information on what random forest is. And in this case, it tells us the 7 most important drivers are this, but I've only chosen to see, I'm only interested in seeing the top 5 drivers. And here they are. The site is visual appealing, staff were knowledgeable and competent. This is how satisfied I was with the product, and I was informed of everything I had to do in order to get the service, and written and verbal communication was clear. So these are the things that are driving satisfaction the most, and you can see their relative impact. So these are each attributing somewhere between 10 and 11% of the overall satisfaction. What's really powerful and what's really been interesting is the ability to translate this into a matrix that explains what to do from a management perspective. And here we see the relative importance of a driver, how strong it is, versus what your level of performance is. In other words, where performance is low and importance is high, this is the area to improve. So staff were knowledgeable and competent. By focusing on the staff dimension of the service delivery, the data is telling us that this is going to have a significant and probably the most significant importance ability to improve our performance. So out of these drivers, it's telling us out of all of the variables, this is the top, these are the top 5, and out of that, this is the one to improve. Protection is accessibility, the site being visually appealing. This tells us these are things we want to protect because the performance is high and the importance is high. So this 2x2 matrix is instantly being generated and instantly of value to your management team in terms of saying, wow, what's going on and what should we be working on? So I'm going to call this slide drivers and I'm going to save it to the report. And instantly I've got that coming through as something I can report to. I also have the ability to do more driver analysis if I so choose. Okay, so driver analysis is something that organizations often find to be very valuable when they work with the ICCS and they look at the data and they report their data by whether they collect their data through the CMT and whether that's done on an organization basis or a branch basis or a unit basis. So we have organizations doing it. Now, if you remember, I asked the system to benchmark 3 questions: overall satisfaction, the knowledge of staff, and fairness. I could have chosen more, but I only chose in this instance 3 questions. But automatically, this benchmarking report gives us a quick summary of how we are performing in terms of my organization and what the rating is versus, in this instance, all groups. I could have been more precise in using categories and broken down the filters and chosen other categories by which to benchmark. But in this case, just for illustration, I just showed you how simple it is to be able to create this benchmark. So already I know with regards to my performance of our organization, we are performing below average. So you can see that the overall score out of 5 against 42 benchmarks, we've got 2.95 versus an average of 319, right? So I'm going to call this benchmarking just for the sake of a quick report. And boom. I may have spelt it wrong or I may not. All right, looks okay. So I'm going to save that report. Now, this is giving me the ability to perform the benchmarking. And it instantly gives me a sense of how I'm doing. Now, I could have removed data that's older. I could recognize that I know that this benchmarking data has been around. Is there a particular date that I want to sort of focus on? Do I want to go, for example, all data just from 2015, I could just select a date, just pick a date by which I want to see the most recent data. So you've got that ability to filter based on that. So I could add new benchmarking analysis and I can filter the questions and I can create new benchmarking, right? So that's another sort of feature. So I've got these types of features available to me, but the point I'm trying to illustrate today is how quickly and easily one can generate this type of analysis based on the ICCS benchmarking database, which is quite robust. It has over 100 organizations, and you can filter and focus on areas of specific interest, whether it's internal service, external service, provincial service, whether you're providing information services, regulatory services, all kinds of things that allow you to filter and get to more apple to apple type comparison. But the ICCS benchmarking has been, a critically popular service. I mentioned as well, there are organizations such as Front Counter BC, such as Service New Brunswick, that now have started to build their own internal benchmarks. In other words, what they do is they're basically using a data, they're basically comparing and building an internal benchmark, and that way they get to benchmark across and inside their organization. So that's kind of a feature that can easily be leveraged out of this thing. The next type of data I want to show you is something called outliers. And outliers is based on the statistical method of Z-scores. But basically, outliers are segments of your respondents that are considerably above or below their peers. So as it indicates, these are things that are typically where the scores are high or low. And in the case of customer service, this is a very, very powerful level of insight. This is now what I would call a second order level. This lends itself to some very complex and insightful analysis, which I'll sort of show you in a second. But let's just take the data we have and see, what does this insight tell us based on the information that we've got going? And instantly, it tells us that we have a couple of questions that we've collected. In this case, question 6, the accessibility, how satisfied were you with the accessibility of the service product? And what we found is that those who answered 2 to the question's community size, and let's say question 2 meant less than 10,000 residents, these are somewhat of a negative outlier. And there were, what's that mean? Well, the average was 284, but this score is indicating, the score is, the average to this question is 3.25, but your score of this group was 284. This is telling us something's going on in that particular group. So I'm going to say that outlier because I think that's important. It's also telling us that they found a somewhat negative outlier with respect to did staff go the extra mile? So in this case, we got 2 dimensions. It was the particular type of service. And let's say it was the answer to question 1, which would, let's say, information services, or it could have been anything that you would have defined as your under service type. And the one that answered question 1, which might have been communities that are under 5,000, right? So all of a sudden, we're being able to find that there's something going on that's of interest to this group. Now, this is a relatively simple example from a small data set, but I want to show you something that's a little bit more interesting. And I want to tell you the story of an organization that we worked with that's quite a bit more complex, quite a bit more mature, but was able to do something extremely powerful using Citizens First Analytics. It was an airport. And this airport had been in the practice of collecting a wide range of data. Unfortunately, the data they had was kept pretty much separated, but they were very interested in being able to pull a variety of different types of data together. They had data that tracked the customer journey. What airline was used? What gate did they come through? What restaurants did they visit? And some demographics on who the passengers were. They also captured performance data. What was their satisfaction with each of the places along their customer journey? What was the willingness to recommend? How many of them would come back and use that again. So that's churn. And they also collected open-ended comments from these passengers. So 6 months of this data were put together, and using the outliers analysis and what I'm going to show you in a minute, the text analysis, managers were able to pinpoint what was upsetting passengers, which specific passengers were upset, and what could be done to address their concerns. This was information that would never been available to managers at this airport. This airport has subsequently gone on to build this out into their dashboard of managers, because they now can take information with respect to any particular time and flag where there are drops in performance and identify what's driving that specific drop in performance, or conversely, where exceptional performance is occurring. So that ability to flag issues on the customer journey is something I think many public sector organizations would like to be able to get to, but very few are at that level of maturity and sophistication with regards to their data analytics. But Citizen First Analytics does offer up that ability to do that. So let's go back to the demo, and I'm going to bring you back to the demo, and I'm going to take you to the last and really exciting form of analysis, and that's text analytics. And this is where the ICCS is experiencing sort of the biggest boom in interest. And that is because all of our organizations have struggled with this problem. I have lots of comments, I have lots of data, but I don't have a lot of time. And beyond not even having time, I don't have the patience or the mental energy to go through hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of comments to make sense of that. I remember that. We all remember doing this as part of a psychology or social science research course, and we were introduced to the idea of doing qualitative analysis, and the time and energy and the pain to be able to code and analyze and group into themes. All of this stuff was just, we all recall how difficult and painful it was and all the shortcuts we took in order to be able to get it done. But with AI today, this now becomes a much, much simpler task. So much so that if you see what I did, I uploaded our 61 comments, our survey of 61 comments, and I'm going to ask the system to do some auto analysis for me. And it's going to analyze the text. And it's going to allow me to do some very interesting things here. And what it's going to be able to do is it's going to allow me to do a variety of different analysis. And I just asked it to do sentiment analysis. So let's just see what that gives us. So sentiments are what people are feeling. So this is an automated using AI to basically assess what people were happy with and what their comments were. And already you can see these are showing moderately upset. Well, these are the negative sentiments in yellow, and here are the positive sentiments across the range of my 61 respondents. Right? So this was good, this was cool, you could see that there, right? So already I can see, in this case, I've being able to instantly go through and have a sense of, wow, this is how people were feeling about their service experience. Okay, so that's very, very helpful in being able to sort of drill down and understand what's going on. But I also want to get a sense of collecting what people are saying, what themes, like how do I cluster all of this stuff into something that I can understand? And this is called themes, and this is using the AI built into Research AI to be able to very quickly, as you can see, go through the data and cluster into themes and begin to discover what themes are going on so I can do my analysis. And you can see here that we've got some suggested themes and suggested topics. Now, I'm going to show you two ways in which it's doing it. This one you can see is that there's two forms. You can see here this LDA and LSI are two types of mathematical algorithms that are used to be able to read the data and match words, right? Identify keywords. So we've got here some words that look like they're related to service, and I'm going to remove the ones that I don't think are related to service. And I'm going to take service and access, and I think, that's going to be good. I'm going to call this, I'm going to change it. I'm going to label this. I'm just going to say the theme. I think this is access. All right. Now this one looks like it's got to do with site, nice, bad, pretty, experience. I think this is starting to look like it could have something to do with the website. All right, and it's telling me that 36% of the comments are there. Now, I could add, because I've seen website here, I think I want to just add website to my list of keywords it's looking for and see what happens. Yeah. So in this instance, I'm going to say that that's website. Now, you can see that I'm starting to narrow down, and I've got the ability to look for common words. So I could look at, is there something here that's similar to bad that I want to say, oh, wow, terrible. Yeah, I like those. I'm going to add, so I can start to refine and say, wow, look at this. These are, out of all of the comments I received, we're starting to get a sense of frequency and percentage. So again, we're getting a good feel for what's going on. But here, if I go down a little further, you'll see that the system is now doing something else. It's generating themes based on existing models. And in this case, one of the key models it's using is the Citizens First model, right? So this is what we're familiar with. This is the CMT. This is the Customer Satisfaction Index. So now we're starting to see the themes that we're familiar with. And it's looking for those themes in the comments. So staff competence, yes. Ease of access, yes. Timeliness, yes. And you can see that these are, so I'm going to save timeliness. I'm going to save ease of access. I'm going to save staff competence. And I'm going to save website. And I'm going to save these changes. So all of a sudden, the system has allowed me to build a theme out of very quickly identifying these themes. And it's giving me a sense of the key themes by keywords. And it's telling me which those keywords are. And I can review the data. If I want to look at themes and the keywords, I can now go through, and if I wanted to, I can modify and update my themes to make them more precise, but I'm now getting a chance to get a view of what's going on with what people are saying with respect to the themes. What's also exciting in this view is I have the chart details, and it's basically summarizing that 6 responses had a negative sentiment, 3 are neutral, and 1 are positive. Right. So again, very, very quick sort of analysis of what's going on, and you can include this in our report. So I'm going to put here themes as our report. Okay, so that is a simple example of based on a small one-time, relatively straightforward analysis. But what I want to do is tell you the story of Service New Brunswick for a minute. We are working with Service New Brunswick and the team there, and that is a super exciting project because Service New Brunswick, many of you know, delivers the most commonly used services through its network of online, phone, but very importantly, in-person service centers across all the communities, 31 communities in New Brunswick, 30 plus communities. And I was visiting New Brunswick this summer on vacation, and I saw the Service New Brunswicks in St. Stephen and in various towns and across the I can't think of all the towns I saw, but Sussex and so on and so forth. I mean, they are prominently displayed. They are a prominent part of the of every community in major community in New Brunswick. But beyond that, Service New Brunswick also provides core internal services as a central service provider to the broad public sector in New Brunswick. So that is pay and benefits, accounts payable, central IT support. They provide linen and bed and equipment to the hospitals in New Brunswick. They provide the logistics in terms of delivery of all of your material. They do fleet services, all of that. They do translation services. They do a whole host of all the services that public sector organizations rely on. And they are very, very keen to use the drivers, the CMT framework, to evaluate performance and provide the executives of all of their organizations with a report that identifies the drivers for their organization and identifies how they're performing on a benchmark against others. And this is a lot of work for a very small team. What they're doing now is they're working with us at Service at the ICCS to be able to build a capability of allowing a one-person team to take the reports that they were doing once a year to every month and being able to do ad hoc. More than that, they're interested in building and tracking unique themes that are like a compilation of themes that are unique to each of those lines of service, and being able to track issues and to track the impact of service improvements over time. So they're supercharging their service capabilities through Services First Analytics. I just want to show one example of what they're doing, and you get a sense of this is the themes that they have, and this is for pay and benefits. And this is going through the most recent survey, and this is 270 comments. Now, they have 9 levels of service. They have, I think, 1,800 comments that they were going through from the most recent survey, and they've been able to do this and do this analysis in a day, right? So once you're trained and they go through it, a day might be, let's call it a couple of days of work to refine the work. But their ability to begin and get into it, to chew on it, to be able to deeply mine the data is what they're interested in. And they're learning. They're learning how to use the tool. They're learning how to collaborate, because that's another important feature here. One of the critical things that you've got the ability to do is share your project. So that ability for you to say, is this right? I've done it this way. Have a look at this. What do you think? And when we're doing this kind of analysis of open-ended questions, that's really important, because you want to make sure you're working with your partners to make sure you're asking the right questions and you're coming to the right agreement on what the comments are saying. So that's what they've been doing. And I think it's super exciting, and they're finding it to be, incredibly powerful to be able to figure out what's going on and what are the specific sets of issues, and then be able to identify those and work on them and then track what's happening in terms of comments. I know that this work is being replicated in federal departments that are working with the ICCS. I know it's being done with municipal organizations such as the Region of Peel, where they've been actively been using this tool to be able to do all kinds of surveys. And that's the last thing I'm going to say before I go back here. I'm just going to make a comment about the flexibility. This underlying capability to analyze data is based on initially the ICCS work, but you do have the ability to be very flexible. You don't have to use just Citizens First data set questions. You can use any survey you want, be that related to staff, be that related to, any kind of survey, whether that would be employee engagement, burnout, equity, diversity, any of these kinds of measures that can be used in this context. So let me just wrap up here. I got 1 minute. Thank you, Michal, and then we're going to just get to the last comment of this, and then I will be done. So the last thing I want to say is that Citizens for Analytics, I hope I can show that this is a benefit to your organization. It supercharges the capacity of existing teams. The organizations that are working with the ICCS are dealing with the fact that they have lots of demand, but limited capacity. What they want to do is supercharge the capacity of existing teams. They are not looking to turn their existing teams into PhDs in data analysis or engineers that are going to have to engineer solutions in Power BI. More importantly, they want to be up and running in 1 day. They also want to take advantage of the fact that the ICCS supports them with advice, training, or, as some people have started to ask us, could you do the full delivery of my reports for me? The answer is yes. People are also asking, is this compliant with AI guidelines, security and legal security, internal security and legal privacy requirements? Yes, it is, with all of those. We go into that in a lot more detail. It's explainable, it's proven, and it's trusted. Very importantly, you're dealing with the ICCS, so many of you already have a procurement vehicle in place. Also of interest to some is the fact that the ICCS is in the game of training and certifying managers in how to move from insights to improvement. The CIPI model, the certification program, is focused on using these tools. First of all, defining your data, getting the data, analyzing the data, but translating the data into improvements. That's what's part of the certification. All of that is fully integrated using all of these tools. Lastly, there's no risk to you. A free trial of this is available via the ICCS. Anyway, with that being said, Michal, I think I'm done, and I'll just let you turn us over to questions and answers.
Thank you, Guy. And yes, we don't have much time left, but please don't hesitate to submit any questions that you may have using the Q&A icon on your screen. So we'll be happy to answer those. Or if you have any questions after the meeting, or if we don't manage to answer, your question during the session, please don't hesitate to contact us directly, and definitely go visit our website and feel free to sign up and register for a free account, a demo account, where you would be able to try out the different functionalities of CF Analytics. So for the sake of time, let me just move over to the questions that we've received so far. And The first question that I see is, will we be able to use this tool with our jurisdictional results from CF 2023? And let me, since I know Guy is very familiar with Citizens First research as well, but Citizens First 2023, obviously this is something I'm working with closely, and the answer is yes, absolutely. This is the perfect instrument tool to dissect this data even further. Obviously, in our reporting for Citizens First, in our jurisdictional reports, if your jurisdiction is participating, we do report on a lot of detail, but there's so much more. The data set is contains much more information. It contains open-ended data and so on. And this CF analytics tool will be an excellent vehicle to kind of dig deeper into that. So I'm not sure, Guy, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's a good answer, good question, and we're happy to be able to say yes.
Excellent. So maybe I see a couple of other questions, and just let me get to those. Do you provide insights on how best to use drivers and which ones? Guy, maybe I'll flip it over to you.
Well, this again is worthy of a little bit of advice as you're working with the ICCS. So I think if you've got some questions on how to think about interpreting drivers for your particular line of business that you offer, I think that's worthwhile. But I think as you get your specific results using your survey instrument, and let's assume for the time being you're using the CMT, you'll probably find that the drivers for your particular services are going to be somewhat unique. We know that depending on the type of business you have, you run, the services you offer, the drivers do vary. So you'll want to know that you've got your specific, but the system will identify what drivers are most important for you. And I think that's the basic bottom line. Is if you're asking the questions around satisfaction and you're using the CMT instrument and you're using all those variables, you'll find out what drivers are most important for your line of business. Yeah.
Excellent. And another question is, can we get a customized demo for our organization?
Just sign up and we'll be there.
Absolutely. Let me just emphasize the fact that, yeah, we're here to work with organizations such as yours, and we're available. We're always happy to meet, to chat, and so on. So please don't hesitate to contact us. I'm just trying to see if there are any additional questions. And I know we're almost out of time. So I think we will be, unless there's anything else, I think we will be wrapping things up. And so before we end this session, let me just say thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Guy, for a wonderful presentation, a great demo. And again, I invite you all to contact us directly. We would definitely be looking forward to answering the questions and chatting to you directly. And also let me drop this in 2 weeks. We will actually have a webinar on the results of Citizens First 2023. We will be putting out messaging about that over the next few days. So please be on the lookout for that if you're interested. This is something that will be happening in 2 weeks. So I do invite you to that webinar as well. But unless there are any other questions, I think that's it for me. I'm not sure, Guy, if you have anything else to say to wrap things up.
Thank everyone for attending and for viewing the webinar. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to growing and expanding and staying on the leading edge in the future. And stay tuned. I don't want to say too much, but in the new year, there's going to be some really cool advances on the tech side that are going to attract a lot of interest and attention. So we're looking forward for some cool stuff there. But looking forward to talking to all the folks who signed up here. And thank you to Michal and the team from the ICCS that supported this. And here's to getting those scores back up to where they were 25 years ago. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.